Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you on this Friday as we head into the weekend. First, the latest developments in the Bryan Kohberger case. Are we going to get a little more information? Next, sex, lies, infidelity, and attorney chaos. That's right, the poisonous betrayal in the James King murder trial that's beginning. Donna Adelson is back in court. Karmelo Anthony gets a court date. And guess what? His family needs some more money. You know, that $500,000 that was raised by people, it just doesn't go as far as it used to. And we need to screen teachers just a little bit better because some of those bad ones are making the good ones look not so great. Karen Reed wants the civil lawsuit against her dismissed. It's been a bad day. That's what a man told police after killing his wife. We have This Day in Legal History. Our quote of the day comes from Clarence Darrow. And then our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. The lovely Miss Kristen had some friends over the other night, and they thought that you could only watch us on YouTube. I said, no, you can download us on the podcast, any podcasting app as well. And that was more convenient for her. She just thought I'd listen to it all the time, but I'm not near the TV or don't have my phone. But she could listen to it on a podcast. So it's just something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. And before we get started, let me tell you to go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up for that background subscription service today. Now, I hope that people in your life you trust, right? There's particularly people you've married or in a relationship with. You want to make sure you trust them. But if you're not getting that warm, fuzzy feeling, maybe a quick little background search is something you need to do. Find out if they've got that burner phone number associated with them. Why do they have 10 other email accounts? Maybe it's completely legitimate, or maybe they're using it for all those dating sites that they're on. Maybe they picked up a criminal case they didn't tell you about. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's somebody in your life that's maybe not giving you that warm, fuzzy feeling, or somebody coming into your life and you're not sure, go check them out. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but if you've ever had HVAC issues, it can be difficult. Let me tell you, we are now going into, I think, day 14 of the saga where we had water leaking through our bedroom ceiling and the air conditioning unit on the floor above us they thought was leaking. Yes, found out I was charged $9,000 for a coil that probably cost no less than a few $100s to be installed. But don't worry, it didn't fix the problem. So the company kept coming back and back and back and back. I think we made 6 trips and they checked it all out. And when they finally got the right coil in, they wanted to charge me another $2,600. And guess what? Then it didn't work. And then the compressor went out. Yes. And can I tell you how much they were going to charge me for a compressor? $8,000. They were going to give me a deal because I've been such a good customer, and they apologized for all the inconveniences. And I said, nope, don't trust you guys anymore. Get out. Called somebody that a friend referred that does all their commercial stuff as well as some home heating and air conditioning units. And the compressor that the other company, and I'll get to the company's name in just a second, the other company wanted to charge me $8,000 on a discount. You know how much that little compressor cost, ladies and gentlemen? $750 cost. I was on the phone with the new guy, and they said, well, if you get a whole new unit, the outdoor unit, it's $1,500 with a 10-year warranty. So I went with that. And the guy's going to charge me $1,000 to install it. $2,500. This other company, $8,000, and they still couldn't get everything fixed. And they wanted to say, well, you probably need a whole new system input as well. And that's going to be close to $30,000. So, it was an emergency. They were the first ones to get in there, but be careful, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not sure this is the way they conduct business, but everybody I've said that I've used this particular company has laughed, and they said they overcharge everyone. So this is just my personal experience. I'm not bad-mouthing. I'm just saying, you may want to consider getting a second opinion if Applewood Plumbing and Heating here in Colorado were to, need a call, get a second opinion. My advice is Don't go to a company that has all the ads on TV, all the first spot on the internet. Get somebody local, ladies and gentlemen. Just my experience. It's been an ordeal. And guess what? They're going to install everything later this afternoon. The new guy who's going to charge $2,500 installed, not $8,000. Okay, I digress. I'm sorry. It's just got the old dander up. That's all I can say. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for Friday, July 11th, 2025. All right, let's get to the Bryan Kohberger and the recent developments. So in the ongoing saga of the Idaho student murders, recent events have brought some significant closure to the case that obviously has captivated the public going back to November of 2022. Bryan Kohberger, the now former criminal PhD student at Washington State University, has been convicted of the brutal stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Madison Mogan. Now, that incident took place back in November of 2022 at their off-campus residence there in Moscow, Idaho, where Kohberger killed after he entered the home and attacked the victims with a fixed blade knife. Now, prosecutors indicated that Kohberger planned the assault for months, evidenced by his purchase of a K-bar knife back in March of 2022 and the DNA trace evidence from a knife sheath left at the scene, which coincidentally matched Bryan Kohberger. What are the odds? Anyway, he was arrested 6 weeks later at his parents' home in Pennsylvania with no apparent prior connection to the victims and an undisclosed motive. We talked about that yesterday. Go check out that video. Anyway, a pivotal development unfolded last week when Kohberger entered a guilty plea to 4 counts of the first-degree murder as part of the plea agreement to avoid the death penalty. Now, under the terms of the deal, Kohberger is going to receive a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and he waived his rights to appeal or seek any reduction or post-conviction relief at all. Notably, the plea did not compel Kohberger to provide further details about the actions or motivations, leaving many questions unanswered. Now, sentencing is scheduled for July 23rd, during which the victim's family will have the opportunity to deliver their victim impact statements. Now, the resolution has divided the families. Obviously, the Chapin and the Mogan families support the plea deal, while the Gonzalez and the Kernodle families have expressed absolute opposition, seeking greater accountability and potential confession. Now, that's simply not going to happen, so it is what it is. Now, among the proceedings, a court hearing has now been set for July 17th at 10:30 before Judge Hippler there in Ada County, and this session is to be conducted via Zoom to address a motion to vacate the non-dissemination order that we discussed yesterday. Obviously, this order has restricted the public dissemination of case-related information. Now, the notice filed on July 10th lists the state of Idaho as plaintiff and Kohberger, obviously, as the defendant, with service extended to various legal representatives, including Kohberger's counsel and the prosecutors. Now, if granted, the court could lift constraints on media coverage and public disclosure, potentially allowing for more transparent updates as it relates to the evidence that the prosecution had as the sentencing date approaches. Now, we are getting a little bit more information as it relates to the family perspective as the sentencing date does approach closer. Stacy and Jim Chapin, parents of victim Ethan Chapin, recounted their final joyful moments with their son during a parents' weekend at the University of Idaho back in November of 2022. Accompanied by Ethan's triplet siblings, Maisie and Hunter, the family celebrated their children's independence only to face, obviously, the unimaginable loss just a week later. The Chapins have attended Kohberger's recent plea hearing, expressing support for the deal as a means to expedite the closure. Now, Kara Northington, mother of Xana Kernodle, initially grappled with frustration over the lack of answers, but ultimately found solace in the plea, viewing it as a protective measure against prolonged appeals and further emotional strain. She described the outcome as a blessing, aligning with her faith and her desire to shield her family from extended trauma. Now, emerging discussions have also explored potential factors influencing Kohberger's mental state, including a rare neurological condition known as visual snow syndrome. Now, this disorder, which Kohberger has publicly described as disorienting his vision like static on a television or a video game, may be shared with, guess who? That's right, Luigi Mangione, another individual linked to high-profile crimes, obviously. Allegedly. Anyway, symptoms of this VSS include persistent visual disturbances, light sensitivity, migraines, brain fog, anxiety, depression, and depersonalization, which can lead to significant distress and isolation and sensory overload. And while no cure exists, management options such as medications, blue light blockers, and stress release practices like yoga may alleviate the symptoms. Now, experts caution that the VSS alone does not explain criminal behavior, emphasizing the need for a comprehensive clinical context. Now, speculation surrounding Kohberger's motivation has further intensified, with theories tying him to the involuntary celibate incel subculture. Reports highlight his fascination with Elliot Rodger, the 2014 Isla Vista mass killer who targeted individuals out of resentment towards women and perceived romantic rejection. Kohberger studied Rodger in a college course on serial killers and was noted by peers for his unusual interest in the case. Allegations suggest Kohberger may have operated online under a pseudonym, Papa Roger, in a Facebook group discussing the Idaho murders, posting details about the crime, such as the knife sheath, not yet public at the time. The profile ceased activity as it was deleted following his arrest, fueling suspicion of his involvement. Now, while unconfirmed, these elements contribute to a much broader inquiry whether incel ideology played a role in the murders. This incel ideology is that basically you're celibate, more than likely because you couldn't get a date to save your life, like a Bryan Kohberger type of situation. As this case nears its conclusion, it underscores the profound impact on violent crime on families and the communities, while raising enduring questions about motive, mental health, and justice. And with the upcoming hearing and sentencing, further insight may emerge, offering a measure of resolution in this tragic chapter. Listen, everyone's always going to come up with an excuse. It's called mitigation. Mitigation is anything that will reduce the possible punishment. It's not a defense. Not a defense at all. Could be you had a crappy childhood. You suffer from depression. That may sway a prosecutor somewhere along the line, but it doesn't excuse it. It's not a defense to anything. And I don't think we're going to hear a word. I don't think we're going to hear a peep out of Bryan Kohberger. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe he'll give a complete confession and apologize to the families. But somehow I think he's going to say he has nothing left to say other than bring it on. Next on the docket, sex, lies, infidelity, and a bunch of attorney chaos, the poisonous betrayal in the James Case murder trial. So Angela Craig was experiencing severe headaches and dizziness, leading to 3 hospital visits in Colorado over a 10-day period, during which medical professionals were unable to determine the cause or her condition. During her first hospitalization, she texted her husband, James Craig, stating that she felt as though she's been drugged, and noting that her only consumption that morning had been a protein shake, as documented in the affidavit for arrest warrant. And then 3 hours into her third hospital visit, Angela Craig, a mother of 6, began seizing and was transferred to the intensive care unit in an unresponsive state. Then on March 18th, 2023, at the age of 43, she was declared brain dead. More than 2 years following her death, James Craig, her husband, a dentist, is scheduled to stand trial for her murder, with jury selection commencing yesterday. The probable cause affidavit, comprising of over 50 pages, outlines evidence against him, including witness statements, text message screenshots, computer search histories, and the identification of a secret email account used to procure poisons and to facilitate an extramarital affair. Ladies and gentlemen, CrimeTalkSearch.com. Just saying. Anyway, subsequent to Angela Craig's death and prior to the trial, James Craig had engaged multiple legal representatives, one of whom withdrew, citing his alleged actions, and another who faced accusations of arson at his residence. Additionally, James Craig has been accused of orchestrating a murder plot from jail, targeting the lead investigator on his case. Now, James Craig has entered a plea of not guilty to 6 felony charges, which include first-degree murder, solicitation to commit first-degree murder, solicitation to commit tampering with physical evidence, and solicitation to commit perjury. A conviction on the murder charge would result in a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Now, police were initially alerted by James Craig's dental partner, a guy by the name of Ryan Redfern. While traveling to the hospital on the day of Angela Craig's final admission, Redfern received a call from a colleague reporting the delivery of potassium cyanide to the office days earlier and stated that to the police. Upon arrival, Redfern informed a nurse that there was no legitimate dental purpose for the substance, prompting her to contact law enforcement. Later that evening, James Craig, inquiring whether Redfern had spoken to medical staff and acknowledged the package. He initially attempted to fabricate an explanation before admitting to ordering the potassium cyanide, claiming his wife had requested it due to suicidal ideations, a claim unsupported by the evidence. Now, Redfern advised him to cease speaking and retain legal counsel. Text messages between the couple during Angela Craig's hospitalization indicate she may have suspected drugging. She described feeling as though under the influence of heavy medication, and when expressing that she felt drugged, James Craig responded by acknowledging their history and asserting, "Just for the record, I didn't drug you." Smart move. Anyway, one of Angela Craig's sisters informed investigators that James Craig had previously drugged his wife years earlier to prevent her intervention in a suicide attempt. Additionally, a dental employee reported that Angela Craig accused her husband of poisoning her upon discharge from her second hospital stay. Now, the coroner's report determined Angela Craig's cause of death as acute cyanide and tetrahydrozoline poisoning with subacute arsenic poisoning noted as a significant contributing factor. Investigators identified a secret email account accessed solely from a computer in an exam room at James Craig's dental practice. Now, the account's history revealed searches such as, quote, "How many grams of pure arsenic will kill a human?" End quote. "Is arsenic detectable in an autopsy? How to make poison? Top 5 undetectable poisons that show no signs of foul play." Orders of arsenic and potassium cyanide were placed via this account. Now, receipts indicate arsenic was purchased on February 27th of 2023 and delivered to Craig's residence on March 4th of 2023, 2 days before Angela Craig's first hospitalization. Potassium cyanide was ordered on March 8th of 2023 and delivered to the office on March 13th of 2023, where an employee observed and opened the package. Now, the email account also contained explicit communications with Karen Kane, a woman from Texas who visited James Craig in Colorado during his wife's hospitalization. In a 2023 interview, Kane stated she met him at a dental convention in February, believing he was divorcing, and denied involvement in any motive for the alleged crime, noting their relationship spanned only 3 weeks. Now, since his arrest, James Craig has changed legal representations multiple times, leading to trial delays. He initially retained 3 attorneys, replacing them in May of 2024 with Harvey Steinberg. Then in November of 2024, Steinberg withdrew, citing professional conduct rules related to the client's actions deemed criminal or fraudulent, and had a fundamental disagreement on what his client was doing. And then in July of 2025, court-appointed attorneys Lisa Moses and Robert Working were assigned, but Working was later cited for a misdemeanor weapons violation in June of this year and arrested on a felony 4th-degree arson on June 29th of this year. Working withdrew from the case on July 2nd. Moses continues as counsel, and another attorney joined on the team. Now, following Steinberg's withdrawal, prosecutors added charges of solicitation to commit murder and solicitation to commit perjury, alleging that James Craig plotted from jail to kill 4 individuals. First, he wanted dead the lead detective, Bobby Olson, an unidentified officer, Hillstrand, and 2 fellow inmates. He reportedly attempted to recruit inmates Nathaniel Harris for the acts and wrote a wrote to Harris's ex-wife, Cassini Constantinides, urging her to fabricate evidence portraying Angela Craig as suicidal, including texts, phone records, and photographs. Intercepted letters offered financial incentives for the fabrication, intended for presentation to prosecutors and his attorneys. Now, obviously, the good Dr. Craig is entitled to the presumption of innocence. This is going to be an interesting case to watch. We intend to stream it to you, assuming all goes well. It's going to be good. I know all the players involved. The judge before he was a judge, the prosecutors, the defense attorney, the former defense attorney, and the former defense attorney, and the former defense attorneys. It's going to be good. And like I said, I know the attorneys, and my heart goes out to Rob Working, the attorney who thought it'd be a good idea to burn down the family home, allegedly. And hats off to Lisa, who's like focusing on finishing this trial. Either way, it's going to be good. And whatever the outcome, well, it's not over. Next, Donna Adelson graces the courtroom with her presence yet again. That's right. Donna Adelson graced the courtroom this morning for a motions hearing in the saga tied to the 2024 slaying of her erstwhile son-in-law, FSU law professor Dan Markle, a case where family ties have proven perilously binding. Now, charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation in Markle's fatal shooting, Adelson finds herself ensnared in a plot prosecutors alleged involving a change of intermediaries for her son, Charlie Adelson, through his then-girlfriend, Catherine Magbuana, to hitman Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. Markle met his end in July of 2014, ambushed in his Tallahassee garage amid a bitterly contested custody dispute with Adelson's daughter, Wendy. Now, the hearing dissected two defense motions. The first sought reconsideration of a ban on referencing Rivera's ties to the Latin Kings gang, not to tarnish his character. The defense insisted, but to illuminate Adelson's mindset regarding the peril posed by Markle's killers. Prosecutors, unmoved, offered no fresh rebuttal. The second motion delved into discovery woes for Adelson's revamped legal team, Jackie Fulford and Joshua Zellman, who assumed the reins last fall following a conflict of interest ruling against the prior counsel, Dan Rashbaum. Now, they demanded a fresh trove of evidence, including raw, unredacted data from Adelson's phone seized upon her 2023 arrest. The state objected, citing the need for a court order, and the judge duly granted it. Further friction arose over data from Wendy's phone, dated July 18th of 2014. The defense pressed for unpurged files, only for prosecutors to counter that no full extraction occurred, rendering such raw material non-existent. In a pre-hearing ruling on defense venue change, Judge Everett deferred final judgment, allowing revisitation post-jury selection attempts. That process looms on August 19th of 2025 in Tallahassee, where the seating and impartial panel may prove challenging. Next, Karmelo Anthony gets a trial date. That's right, the trial for Karmelo Anthony, the 18-year-old accused of the fatal stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a high school track athlete from Frisco, Texas, is scheduled to commence on June 1st, 2026, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, just almost a year from now. Anyway, Anthony faces charges of first-degree murder stemming from an incident at a track meet on April 2nd of this year, where he allegedly stabbed Metcalf during a confrontation inside the Memorial High School track team tent. The Next Generation Action Network, represented by its president, Dominique Alexander, who serves as spokesperson for the Anthony family, issued a statement expressing anticipation of the trial. What we can share is that Mr. Karmelo Anthony, his family, his legal team, and his broader support team are looking forward to the opportunity to present the facts in a court of law. They further affirmed confidence in the defense of attorney Mr. Mike Howard. And what we do know is surveillance footage captured the stabbing, and Mr. Metcalf succumbed to his injuries while in the arms of his twin brother. Anthony was apprehended on school grounds shortly thereafter and indicted and indicted on first-degree murder charges in June of this year. Now, the district attorney commented on the indictment. For weeks, my team has been presenting evidence to the grand jury. Today, I summarized the evidence and I asked the grand jury to return a first-degree murder indictment against Karmelo Anthony, which they did. With that indictment, the case now moves formally into the court system. From the point forward, we'll continue to do our part fully and fairly to pursue justice under the law. In response, the attorney for Mr. Anthony described the indictment as a routine procedural step and maintained that the evidence would support a self-defense claim, potentially introducing reasonable doubt. Now, according to the arrest affidavit, Anthony retrieved a knife from his bag after warning Metcalf, "Touch me and see me what happens," before stabbing him and fleeing the scene. Anthony reportedly admitted to the act upon arrest, stating to the officer, "I'm not alleged, I did it," and then claimed, "Is that self-defense?" He was initially held on a $1 million bond, later reduced to $250,000 bond, and he was released on house arrest. Following the incident, the Anthony family, though, established a fundraiser on Give, Send, Go to support legal defense and other related expenses. As of the latest available data, the campaign has raised $545,000 towards their goal of $1.3 million. A recent update from the June 2025 indicates that the family requires additional funds to address escalating needs, including safe relocation due to threats, living expenses, transportation, counseling, security, and ongoing legal costs as the case advances towards trial. This development has drawn a little bit of scrutiny regarding the allocation of donations, with the family denying the allegations of misuse, such as claims of purchasing property. Now, the Metcalf family also initiated fundraisers in Austin's memory. One, organized by his father, Jeff Metcalf, seeks to aid the family's healing process following the tragedy. Another, established by Carrie Ortis, aims to cover funeral expenses, establishing a scholarship in Austin's name, and support potential future legal proceedings. Now, the Anthony family engaged Alexander, known for his involvement in Black Lives Matters activism and advocacy for police defunding, as their spokesperson. Alexander has framed this case in racial terms, stating after the indictment, "This case is yet another example of what it means to be black in America, where even our self-defense is questioned, scrutinized, and politicized." He has condemned threats and bigotry directed at Anthony and his supporters. Now, during a press conference following Anthony's release on bond, Alexander criticized Jeff Metcalf for attending, describing it as disrespectful and influenced by political operatives promoting hate and racism. This case, ladies and gentlemen, comes down to one thing. Is it self-defense? It's not a whodunit. We know he did it. He went and retrieved a knife and then stabbed Mr. Metcalf in the heart, whereupon he died in the arms of his twin brother. Mr. Anthony flees the scene. Consciousness of guilt, right? Most people, if you thought your actions were justified, would stand there and say, "I did it, but I was self-defense. Please call the police and let's tell them that as well." He said, "I did it. I didn't allegedly do it. I did it, but it was self-defense." That's it. So the jury's either going to believe that or not. Pretty simple case. I could go try this case in, I don't know, give me 30 days. I'd be ready to go to do this trial. An entire year? $500,000? Wow. I wish every one of my clients had a fund me for their legal defense and all the other accoutrements that must come with a proper defense. Obviously, Mr. Anthony is entitled to the presumption of innocence. I'm okay with that. I'm a defense attorney. He's entitled to that. But you can see a grift when you see a grift. He would have been entitled to a public defender. He could have afforded a private attorney if they had the resources to do so. But to go out and get a spokesperson and then move to a gated community for your fear on this $500,000 and now say, "We've only met our goal of $500,000. We're halfway there to our goal of $1.3, almost $1.4 million. Give, ladies and gentlemen, to Karmelo till it hurts." Or maybe it's just a grift. I don't know. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We can't go more than a day or two without having to hear another story about another female teacher doing another inappropriate thing with students. What is going on? I don't know if this was going on when I was a kid. If it was, it wasn't happening to me, probably because I look like a total dork as a little kid. I can admit it now, right? I can admit it now. I look like a total dork. Some people probably think you still look like a dork. But it is what it is. Anyway, in a recent development that underscores the unfortunate frequency of such headlines, please meet Nicole Bally-Callum, a 33-year-old former kindergarten teacher from South Carolina, as she has found herself in the unenviable position of surrendering to police on charges that read like a grim cautionary tale. Accused of 3 counts of criminal sexual conduct with a minor and 1 count of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, Callahan allegedly engaged in a prolonged pattern of grooming and abuse going back as far as 2021, when her victim was in his early teens. And what began as ostensibly innocent interactions, signing the boy out to school, ferrying him to practices, and supervising after-school activities, escalated into corroborated misconduct, as detailed by the Anderson County Sheriff's Office. The young man, now 18, and I'm sure completely traumatized, came forward after grappling with the trauma, prompting investigators that spanned jurisdictions, including additional charges from the Greenville City Police Department. Now, Callahan, who taught at the Homeland Park Elementary School since 2017, resigned in May of 2025 amid the investigation. One might wryly note that her career in education has now transitioned to a far less inspirational chapter courtesy of the justice system. This case prompts a pertinent inquiry: what accounts for the apparent surge in incident involving educators sexually abusing students? Now, recent reports indicating a troubled pattern, with multiple high-profile cases emerging in 2025 alone. For instance, in June, former Illinois high school teacher Christina Formella faced 52 additional charges for an inappropriate sexual relationship with a student. That same month, New Jersey teacher Laura Karen was indicted for allegedly having a child with a teenage student. In May, a California educator, Jacqueline Ma, a former Teacher of the Year, received a 30-year sentence for abusing elementary students. Other examples include a New Jersey Catholic school teacher arrested for producing child sexual abuse material in May, and a Washington teacher confirmed for grooming and sexual misconduct in March. Broader trends reveal an avalanche of claims in California due to relaxed statute of limitations, alongside statistics showing rising incidents of teacher-student misconduct. Now, explanations for the increase drawn from expert analysis and public discourse include enhanced reporting mechanisms and societal awareness, which may amplify visibility without necessarily indicating a proportional rise. I guess that's possible. However, contributing factors appear to encompass eroded boundaries in educational settings, such as informal teacher-student dynamics, casual attire, and first name addressed protocols that blur professional lines, constant digital communications via unmonitored apps and texts facilitate grooming, while curricula emphasizing social emotional learning may inadvertently foster overly personal interactions. Additionally, hiring younger educators closer to the age of the students has been cited as a potential risk as well. Power imbalance inherent in teacher role exacerbates these vulnerabilities, and addressing these rigorous screening, boundaries, enforcement, and oversight to safeguard vulnerable youth all seem to be at issue. Now, don't they, ladies and gentlemen? Want to know what you think? I don't know. Did this always go on? There for a while, you always heard of the male teachers, and now every story has to do with the female teachers. Really? And these teachers all seem like nice people. They seem like relatively attractive people as well. And they couldn't find somebody their own age? Leave the kids alone, for goodness sakes. Next, Karen Reed tries to get the civil suit against her dismissed. So weeks after her acquittal on the charges of murdering her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed has filed a motion to dismiss the civil lawsuit brought against her by the O'Keefe family. Now, a jury acquitted Reed of the charges, which alleged that she struck O'Keefe with her Lexus SUV and left him to die in the snow. Following a night of drinking, of course. Now, although Reed faces no further criminal charges related to O'Keefe's death, his family initiated a wrongful death lawsuit back in 2024, naming her and the bars visited by the couple as defendants. Now, the civil case was stayed pending the resolution of Reed's criminal trial, which concluded in June of this year, as Reed argued that the participation would infringe upon her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, which is code for, no, my client cannot answer questions truthfully under oath as it would incriminate me. And since the trial's over, guess what? Now she's going to have to take her deposition. Oh, and that's right. You can't lie in the deposition because it's under oath, right? I'm sure that never happens. Anyway, subsequent to her acquittal, Reed retained 3 additional attorneys, Aaron Rosenberg, Charles Waters, and Damon Seligerson, to her defense. And then on Wednesday, her legal representative submitted a notice on the motion to dismiss the claims against her. Well, my gosh, why didn't they file that years ago? I wonder why. Oh, probably because it had no basis in fact. Anyway, the complete motion has not yet been submitted to the court and remains unavailable for public inspection, and no hearing date has yet been set. Now, for those who are confused by civil versus criminal, let's break this down. This matter represents a distinct civil proceeding separate from the criminal case. In the United States legal system, criminal and civil actions operate independently with different standards of proofs and objectives. Criminal proceedings pursued by the state require evidence establishing guilt beyond a reasonable doubt and aim to impose penalties such as imprisonment. In contrast, a civil proceeding initiated by a private party like the O'Keefe family seeks remedies such as monetary damages, apply a lower evidentiary threshold of preponderance of the evidence, meaning it is more likely than not that the defendant is responsible. Consequently, an acquittal in the criminal trial does not preclude a finding of liability in a related civil suit, as the outcomes are not interdependent. The criminal result holds no binding effect on the civil adjudication, allowing the latter to proceed based upon its own merit and evidence. And it could also be a trial to the court if a jury fee was not paid. We'll see where this goes. It's going to be interesting. You know, OJ acquitted, found liable, never paid a penny. Next on the docket, it's been a really tough day, so I killed my wife. That's right, it happens. It was a really, really bad day. Did I mention that? So in a plot twist straight out of a bad novel, a Missouri gent allegedly decided to spice up his marriage by shooting his wife and then playing amateur arsonist to cover his tracks, because nothing says relationship reset like a bonfire barbecue. Danny Gilworth, the spry 72-year-old in question, is staring down charges of second-degree murder, second-degree arson, armed criminal action, unlawful use of a weapon, and felony tampering with physical evidence. Now, he entered a not guilty plea per court documents and is cooling his jets in a jail with no bond, proving that some days the house isn't the only thing going up in smoke. Now, this all kicked off on May 24th around 10:35 when a well-meaning visitor popped by a relative's pad near 810 South 23rd Street in Unionsville and spotted smoke signals worthy of a Western flick. As they circled the house to play hero at the front door, out pops homeowner Gilworth, rifle in hand, channeling his inner grumpy gatekeeper. "Back off from the house," he reportedly barked, adding the understatement of the year, "It's been a bad day. Oh, and for good measure, I started the damn fire myself," as confessed to the trooper who penned the probable cause statement. The witness wisely skedaddled and dialed 911 because who needs that kind of drama on a house call? Moments later, a Putnam County Sheriff's deputy rolls up to find Gilworth loitering outside, rifle at the ready like he's auditioning for a zombie apocalypse. The suspect drops the gun on commands but pulls a diva move when cuff time arrives, yanking away and quipped that the deputy would have to kill him. Spoiler, he eventually played nice, got arrested, and was shuttled to the Putnam County Jail, where bad days presumably get worse. Around then, kin of Sandra Gilworth showed up to drop the bombshell. Mom probably still inside the fiery fiasco. Once firefighters doused the blaze and the Missouri Division of Fire and Safety sleuth poked around, they unearthed a deceased woman amid the ashes. Bonus discovery, an accelerant had been splashed about to kickstart the inferno, turning the home into a crime scene cookout. It's a bad day, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a bad day. Anyway, Gilworth got slapped with the second-degree arson and unlawful use of a weapon. And then by June 18th, the complaint was upgraded to include murder via deadly weapon. Because why half measure your mayhem? The tampering rap stems from the allegedly re-coordinating efforts, torching the structure, victims included, to throw murder investigation off the scent. Anyway, Unionville sits cozily in northern Missouri, about 9 miles shy of the Iowa border, close enough for a quick getaway, if only the plan hadn't gone up in flames. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, on July 11th, 1804, Vice President Aaron Burr mortally wounded Alexander Hamilton in a duel in New Jersey, leading to Burr's indictment for murder and later treason, highlighting early legal debates on dueling and political violence. You ever seen Hamilton? They have the shooting of Hamilton. Next, July 11th, 1833, legal discussions following the 1831 Cherokee Nation versus the Georgia Supreme Court decision intensified, influencing treaties and legal protection for Native American rights, with implications for tribal crime jurisdiction. That's right, they want to have their own courts, and now they're going to own the world. The irony of it all. Then, on July 11th, 1870, the U.S. Department of Justice intensified prosecutions of the Ku Klux Klan members under Reconstruction laws addressing voter suppression and racial violence in southern states. On July 11th, 1981, Neva Rockefeller became the first woman legally required to pay alimony to her husband, challenging gender norms in divorce law and marking a milestone in family law. Now that's pretty common with the working wife and a stay-at-home dad. Dad gets maintenance. Oh, how times have changed. On July 11th, 1995, key evidence hearing in the O.J. Simpson murder trial addressed DNA and police misconduct, shaping public disclosure on forensic science and legal fairness. Biggest fiasco, Judge Ito, worst judge ever. Prosecutors totally flubbed that case, overtried their case. That case took 11 months, ladies and gentlemen. Worst judge ever. Next, our quote of the day. There's no such thing as justice in or out of court. Now, that notion that justice is not to be found within the courthouse originated from the renowned American lawyer Clarence Darrow, often to be repeated by your lovable Crime Talk host, Scott Reich, that says, hey, if you want justice, you're not going to find it in a courthouse. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Two apprehended following an audacious ATM theft in Orange County. That's right, in a case that exemplifies the perils of over-ambitious criminal endeavors. 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with a series of ATM thefts across Orange County, Florida. The incidents, which spanned several months and culminated in a dramatic pursuit, highlight the risks inherent in such reckless operations, as reported by the Sheriff's Department. The sequence of events began as early as May, with a group allegedly employing stolen vehicles to target automated teller machines. In one particularly brazen episode captured on surveillance footage during the 4th of July, the perpetrators utilized a pilfered van to forcibly extract an ATM from its mounting outside a local laundromat. This method, involving the attachment of chains to cables to dislodge the machinery, not only demonstrated a complete lack of subtlety, but also posed significant hazards to public infrastructure and bystanders. And police indicate that the suspects frequently sourced their getaway vehicle from unconventional locations, including local churches, which compound community concerns regarding the infringements on the communal spaces. Now, the investigation revealed a pattern of early morning strikes, suggesting a calculated yet ultimately flawed strategy to minimize detection. Now, the arrest followed an intense pursuit on July 9th, during which law enforcement deployed a helicopter for aerial tracking, and the suspects attempted to evade capture by disregarding the spike strips devices used to deflate tires, obviously, and subsequently collided with a semi-trailer. Undeterred by the crash, they produced to flee on foot, only to be swiftly apprehended and transported to the jail. A subsequent search of one of the suspect's residence uncovered a stolen rifle, raising additional questions about the escalation of criminal activity. And while the identities of the suspects and the precise charges remain undisclosed at the time, the sheriff's office has confirmed that the probe is ongoing. Investigators are examining the extent of the thefts, including the number of incidents attributable to the group and the total monetary value involved.
This is gonna blow up online.
Should have watched CrimeTalk.
Now, I think this is somewhat interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the exact MO for an ATM that was stolen from an establishment that I own. And literally, it's on security camera. They've got hoods over themselves. They pry the door open into the restaurant. They go over, remove the ATM machine, put it in there for the ATM to be found several days later on the side of the road, of course, absent all of the money. If I can find that, I will show it to you as well. But it just shows you how brazen these individuals have become. And they just don't care, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.